Well, hello again, everyone. Today we're going to solve some equations using the factoring method we just worked on when our a coefficient was greater than 1. Let's remember about solving equations. When we solve equations where we have a squared variable, an x squared, or whatever the variable is, we have to make the equation equal 0. The equation must equal 0. All the terms are on one side, the equal sign equals 0. And then once we do that, we factor the polynomial we have any way we are able to factor it. And then we use that zero product property, because once you make your factors, they're multiplying to equal 0. One of those factors has to equal 0. So we use the zero product property for each factor to solve each factor separately. Quick little note, if we have a GCF like we did just yesterday, if you have a GCF and that GCF is just a number, so if you have a number and then two parentheses, that number is not going to give you a solution. I'm going to show you one of those. That number is going to end up not being part of our answer. I'm going to do a couple here. 3x squared minus 13x equals 10. Doesn't equal 0, so step 1, got to make it equal 0. Got to take this 10, move it over here, subtract 10 from both sides. So now my equation will say 3x squared minus 13x minus 10 equals 0. Make sure you put it in the right order. Make sure you have the x squared term first, and then the x term, and then the constant. Now it equals 0. Now I can factor it. I'm going to factor using slide, divide, slide. I just prefer it. So I'm going to slide this 3 over here. So now it's going to say x squared minus 13x minus 30 is equal to 0. Be careful with this. I need factors of 30 that subtract to make 13, not add. If this was a plus, well, 10 and 3 would add to make 13, but this is a minus, a negative C term. So I'm subtracting to make 13. Those factors would be 15 and 2. So I get x and x. I get a 15. I get a 2. My signs are different. The larger number gets the B term sign. That's a negative. Negative there, positive there, and it equals 0. The number I did the slide with was a 3, so I will divide the 3, divide the 3. This just simplifies the 5, so x minus 5 is my first factor. This doesn't simplify here, so I'm going to slide that 3 up. This will become 3x plus 2. And both of these parentheses have a product of 0. And now I use that zero product property. Each factor has to equal 0. So either x minus 5 equals 0. And if it does, that means that x would equal 5. So I add 5 to both sides. Or if this isn't a 0, then this factor is 0. So 3x plus 2 equals 0. Subtract 2 from both sides, get negative 2, then divide by 3. So x would equal negative 2/3. So there's my two answers. My two answers are x is equal to, I'm not even going to pretend to try to draw braces, negative 2/3 or 5. Remember, don't put in parentheses. That looks like a coordinate. Either draw braces or just list them from least to greatest. All right, not too bad. Here's the other one. 4a squared minus 18a plus 5 equals 15 does not equal 0. Got to make it equal 0 first. I got to subtract that 15. Combine it with this 5. So 4a squared minus 18a. Subtract 15 from both sides, and this becomes minus 10 is equal to 0. before I factor, I look and I say, hey, there's a GCF. That GCF of all these numbers is 2. So before I break it into binomials, I'm going to factor out the GCF. Always look for a GCF first. That is literally your first step every time you factor. Divide that 2 out of everything. 2a squared minus 9a minus 5 is equal to 0. In the factoring, that 2 is very important. In solving the equation, that 2 will go mean nothing at the end. And I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to do some slide, divide, slide. I'm going to take that 2 and slide it to the 5. So now it says a squared minus 9a minus 10. And that equals 0. Factors of 10, let's subtract to make 9, or 10 and 1. So I'll keep my 2 out here. I'll have my 2 binomials. And the whole thing will equal 0. I know I have an A and an A. My factors were 10 and 1. And the different signs, larger factor gets the B sign, negative. Negative, positive. I did the slide. Now I'll divide. My slide was done with this 2, not the 4. Remember, the slide was done with the 2. So I'll divide by the 2. Scroll down a little bit. So divide that. I work as it's out evenly, so it's just 2. And then a minus 5. This one does not simplify, so I'm going to slide that 2 up. 2a plus 1. And it equals 0. Now, one of these factors has to equal 0 to get a product of 0. I have 3 factors this time. So my first factor is just this GCF, 2. 2 equals 0. But guess what? No, it doesn't. There's no variable to make it equal 0. It's just 2. This will not give me a solution. Anytime you have just a constant out here, it does not give you a solution. 2 does not equal 0, never has, never will. So that GCF out here, when it's just a constant, gives you a nothing. If it said 2a, well now, if 2a equals 0, a would be 0. But if it's just a constant, it means nothing. So now I only have these 2 parentheses. So a minus 5 could be 0. Add 5 to both sides, and a would equal 5. Or if not, then the 2a plus 1 has to equal 0. Subtract 1 from both sides, and then divide by 2, and a would equal negative 1/2. So my final answer is a is equal to either negative 1/2 or 5. All right, that's how it works. Time to get to work. Have fun.